When playing Darkest Dungeon, you can use specific party members to mark enemies, allowing your guys to do more damage to them. This is a really easy mechanic to abuse, which can let you more or less kill multiple enemies very quickly, especially if you catch them by surprise. This is going to be a short guide on a party I've been using to clear through dungeons relatively easily, what abilities they use, and what trinkets to give them to make sure they're all set up and ready to kill monsters before they even get a chance to move. Okay, so for this party, what you want to do is you want to bring an Arbalist, a Cultist, Houndmaster, and Bounty Hunter. Essentially, the whole point of this strategy is to just set up marks on everybody and then use all of your people to do as much damage as possible. Quickly, you have an Occultist in your party, so you can use a Weakening Curse onto them, but also too, with your Bounty Hunter, Houndmaster, and Arbalist, you want to make sure to focus down one target at a time to make sure that they can't move so that you take less damage and stress. One thing I do want to mention here is we don't really have a lot of healing onto this party because we're not bringing a Vestal, so you want to make sure that your torch is relatively bright to make sure that you get that surprise round so that you can kill people without sustaining a lot of damage. We do have the Occultist for some healing, and thankfully the Arbalist and Houndmaster have a little bit of healing too, but this is something to keep in mind as you're going through everything. Okay, so setting up your party, starting from the back, we have the Arbalist. You want to make sure that they are bringing Sniper Shot, Sniper's Mark, and Battlefield Bandage. Of course, Sniper Shot gets bonus damage against marked enemies. Sniper's Mark can mark the enemies, and the Battlefield Bandage is once again good because it can heal you and your other party members, but also increases the healing that they will receive subsequently. As for your Occultist, you want to make sure that you have the Vulnerability Hex to mark people, Weakening Curse to make sure that their protection is lowered so you can do bonus damage, and Weird Reconstruction, I pronounce that all sorts of wrong, for that little bit of extra healing to keep your guys alive. For the Houndmaster, he's going to be second from the front. You want to make sure you're bringing Hound's Rush, which does bonus damage against marked targets, Target Whistle, which allows you to mark different targets, and Lick Wounds for just a little bit of healing sustainability. Last but not least, in the very front, we have our Bounty Hunter. We want Collect Bounty for sure because it does bonus damage not only against humans, but marked targets as well. Mark for Death, you know what this does. And Come Hither to basically shuffle their party around just in case you have a couple of people in weird locations. And on top of that too, it does damage and marks your enemy for you. Okay, so for your trinkets for your party, it's actually kind of funny because the only one you really want to pay attention to is the Occultist, and then for the Arbalist, Bounty Hunter, and Houndmaster, they're going to be using more or less some of the same stuff. But let's go through all of them. Starting out with the Occultist, you want to make sure that your Occultist has a trinket that's going to help its speed as well as debuff. Ideally, if you can get your Occultist to go first, then you can mark people right off the bat, and then make sure that all other party members can just do damage to kill people as quickly as possible. So some speed trinkets include the Speed Stone, Swift Cloak, Berserk Charm, Feather Crystal, and Quick Draw Charm. For debuff trinkets, you have Cursed Incense, Demon's Cauldron, Debuff Stone, and Debuff Amulet. Personally, I like running the Feather Crystal and the Demon's Cauldron on my Occultist because that gives it a little bit of extra speed without taking away from its accuracy, as well as make sure that we can get those debuffs, especially for the Weakening Curse. I'm telling you, man, as soon as you throw the Weakening Curse onto any enemy, it's like, oh my god, they just get annihilated as soon as possible. But then for the other three party members, it's a lot more straightforward. You just want to make sure that you're maximizing their damage, ACC, and critical chance through their trinkets. For your damage, you've got your Legendary Bracer, Focus Ring, Damage Stone, and the Wolf's Tassel. For critical chance, you've got the Crit Stone, Vengeful Greaves, Sniper's Ring, and Focus Ring. And for ACC, or accuracy, you have the Lucky Talisman, Steady Bracer, Book of Relaxation, Reckless Charm, Archer's Ring, and Accuracy Stone. So personally, I think that it's always important to bring the Legendary Bracer, Focus Ring, and Wolf's Tassel, and the Archer's Ring for this specific party, just because the Wolf's Tassel is kind of OP when it comes to actually dealing damage to marked targets. The Archer's Ring is great to throw into the Arbalist, given that the Houndmaster and the Bounty Hunter don't really do range damage, and the Legendary Bracer just makes sure that you can do bonus damage, which is always just kind of a good thing to keep in your back pocket. So once you've got your party all decked out, once again, it is important to mention that these guys are not great at keeping each other alive, especially too if you come up against opponents who can do full party damage. This can be a little bit bad because you have to rely on the Occultist's Weird Reconstruction, which can only heal one party member at a time and sometimes can even heal for 0 HP. This is why it's really important to make sure that you're keeping your torch as bright as possible, especially when going into battle, because when you get that surprise round, you get that first round, oh man, you can just rip through enemies without them even having a chance to act once, which really makes a difference. Of course, this party might not be the best to go against bosses unless the boss is specifically targeting just one person at a time. Just because of that sustaining healing problem, you might get party wiped and you're going to be very sad. And with that, that's going to wrap up this quick guide to a marking party. Of course, there's a lot of different variants out there, so you can feel free to experiment with your highwayman or your grave robber, you know, whatever works best. Of course, you want to throw into a Vestal if you want better healing. But that's going to be the end of this video. Like and subscribe if you thought that this guide was useful, and hope to see you in the next one. See you guys.